Welcome, Risers. It's that time once again for the Agent Rise podcast. I'm your co-host, Neil Mathweg, joined by Mindi, Kessenich. And today we're going to stay focused on working according to our visions, even during the holidays, right? We get this holiday funk going on. Is it a funk or what is it? What do we call it? I don't know. We get in this holiday mood in a
haze?
In a sense.
A holiday haze? Yeah. Like brain fog. Like, what day is it? Yes. What do I do for a living?
It's right. Do I still need to keep working? And yes, all of that. And so we want to keep you active during this season. And we're going to start this conversation off with something that I posted on Facebook last week, where I talked about these boundaries that I have set for myself. And I want to bring this into this conversation around staying active around the holidays, because I really feel that when you start to see the areas where you're pushing work off, or where you're not guarding enough time for your own personal life and your own self-care and your own family and fitness, everything that you want to be bringing into your life, if you're not setting boundaries around that, you'll fill it with work. And so something that I wrote about, a boundary that I put into place, was that I tend to, when I'm busy during the week, I tend to say, you know what, I'll just work on that on the weekend. I got all this free time on the weekend. I'm just going to work on that project on the weekend. And then I get to the weekend and I want to be with my family, and I want to go to the beach, and I want to have fun. I want to go ride my bike, and I want to go shoot photos, and I want to do all of my passions, and I want to have fun. And I also want to take care of myself on the weekends. I want to keep in that routine of taking care of myself. And so I would get to the weekends and I would find that I filled my weekend with a bunch of projects and work. And then I would get out of the weekend and I would feel defeated because I didn't do it. And so I had this procrastination problem where I was procrastinating to the weekend, and I get to the weekend and then I'd feel even more defeated. So now I don't do that anymore. And now I've put this rule in place, and I've been doing this for a few weeks now, is that if it doesn't get done during the week, like if there's something that I didn't get done during the week, then I'm going to schedule it for next week, or I'm going to stay late today and get this done.
And this is like the vacation deficiency that we've talked about in the past, is, and how do you bring that into your everyday and your day-to-day and every week versus just when you go on vacation. Like, and it's funny because I actually don't struggle with that at all, because I have PTSD from being on call as a surgical tech. So like I protect my weekends like full. I don't even want to schedule showings. Like, I'm not showing you a house on the weekend. The weekend's mine. Like literally it's this PTSD that I've realized I have from I shouldn't say ever. It's not like I was on call every weekend, but on the weekends that I was on call, I had absolutely zero control over my weekends. And so I say I have PTSD from that. And so now when somebody, if a client asks me for time over the weekends, I start to like panic. I have this like physical reaction to that. And so I'm like the opposite. Like there is very little that I would get accomplished ever on a weekend, because that's like always been a hard no for me ever since I got into and I think that's kind of the problem, is like a lot of people get into this career because they think that you have time freedom, and sort of you do, but really you don't, because you still, if you're treating your business as a business, there are things you have to get done. And so what does that look like for you?
Right. And that's the stuff too. Like, I know a lot of us, it's easy for us to say no to clients on the weekends. Like we can set those boundaries and we can say no to clients. But is it easy to set aside your goals and your projects and things that you're passionately working on in your business? Is it easy to set that aside? And that's where I struggle, because I'm a creative. I like to create. I'm a visionary, right? And so the weekend, I got a lot of free time. So I'd stack up these little projects. Like I'm gonna work on this website, and I'm gonna work on my YouTube channel, and I'm gonna write 5 videos so that I can record them next week. And I give myself all these projects so that I was more prepared for the next weekend or for the next week. But then really I was just robbing my weekend and robbing it away from my family is what I was robbing it from.
Yeah. And you're working 7 days a week.
Right. Yeah. Mr. Boundary guy over here.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like sometimes it's easier to set up boundaries with clients than it is to set up boundaries with ourselves and the stuff that we want to do. And I would actually argue, like, if there's a project that you're like so excited about, I don't know that it's necessarily wrong to spend time working on that on the weekend. But you do also have to understand, and this is something I heard a long time ago, and it really hit home for me is, and I've said this to my husband too, because he tends to be a little bit of a people pleaser. When you say yes to other people or other things, other projects, other whatever, you are saying no to everything else. And that a lot of times means your family. And I mean, I could get like that with doing stuff around the house, like redecorating my house or cleaning the house or whatever it may be. Like I'm not actually spending time with my family. I'm doing a service for them. But that's, we decided to get a cleaner because it was like, it's, it is a level of work. It's house cleaning is work. Right. And so it would be, I'd get to the weekend and I want to hang out with my family or spend some quality time or even just read a book. Like I would love to, it's like, the fall here, I want to start a roaring fire in my fireplace and sit in front of the fireplace and read a book. Yes. But unless I have somebody else cleaning my house, there's this long laundry list of chores to do. So you got to make sure that you're saying yes to the things you just have to know, like you have to have those set up ahead of time. And be okay with them.
And this is a too many. I had to set some rules up in my head around what do I do on the weekend, right? Because I want to get the most out of the weekend, right? And so one thing that I've noticed in my journey of losing weight, and we got some episodes coming up that we'll talk more about this, but some along the way is that I need to be who I want to become. Right. And what I notice is that healthy people stay in their routines daily, every single day. And, like I listen to Gary Brecka so much, and he's in this camp of, if there's anything that you're going to miss, do not miss your breath work. And so I find that if I do my breath work, which I do the Wim Hof breath work, if I do that first thing in the morning, right away, and then I kick into the rest of my routine because I'm outside on my patio doing my breath work. And then that gets me into my routine to do what Gary suggests is a 30-30-30. So I take in 30 grams of protein and then I go for a 30-minute brisk walk within 30 minutes of waking up. So that first morning, I get my breath work in, I do my protein, I go on my walk, and then I do my cold shower. And there isn't a day all of this to me has not become work to me. This has become enjoyment. This is my fuel. This is what keeps me going every single day. So I'm like, that doesn't need to miss on the weekend. And I found myself missing it on the weekend because I didn't need to rush out the door. I didn't have all these tasks to do. So I could, sleep in a little bit, take the dogs out a little bit slower. My whole day routine was much slower, but I'm like, no, it's got to stay the same. So health, taking care of myself needs to be every single day. And then from there, I'm going to pour into my family. Now, when I pour into my family, there's times where it's like, Dad, would you just go do something? We want to play these video games, or we want to do something, right? Like, Dad, just go do something. So when it's like, Dad, go away, or, like I've poured into them already, we've done everything, or we have plans to do something later and it's just quiet time, then in that time, it's time for me to be creative. Not to do work, but to be creative. And so now I'm staying in this, taking care of my health, taking care of my family, and then I'm getting into this creative flow. So any work that I'm going to do on the weekend is going to be free writing because I love to write. So it's going to be creative writing. It's going to be photos. So I love to take photos. So I'm going to be out on my bike taking photos, or I'm going to be at the beach, right? And just thinking and dreaming and being creative. And so getting in this flow has just been a complete game changer for me. And that's where it all started by, I got to guard that time, right? I can't let the week push into the weekend. And then I had none of that time left to do all of that.
I love that. And it's so funny listening to you because my weekend routine is so different. Like which I love. Like, I mean, there's no like right or wrong way to do it. You have to have some boundaries around work and what that looks like. But like coming back to your routine, so I make sure that I get all 4 of my workouts in. I try to do strength training 4 days a week. And I make sure, like, that is one of those things that, like, if it's Friday afternoon and I haven't done my 4th strength training workout, I'm starting to freak out a little bit, because if I put it onto the weekend, I'm going to start resenting it, because then I have to. Where during the week, it's already part of my routine. It's part of what I do. Now, that being said, I've started trying to schedule in hikes, and a lot of times I'll do them with friends, or, Kevin, if he so desires, but usually it's more I'm like dragging him on a hike, but or just taking my dog for an extra long walk, on one of our favorite trails, because that's something that I love. And so what I try to just do is make sure, and I think this is it's the same thing. Like it's different tasks, but it's ultimately like making sure that the only thing that happens from like Friday at name the time of day through Sunday evening, you are strictly doing things that you love for the most part.
Yep.
And, I do my Costco run every Sunday, which is, nobody loves going to Costco. However, I actually love that part of my routine, because what I do love is I do love having a plan for my family and the nutrition that we are going to be consuming for the week ahead. And so I actually love that. And then I've also been, and my calendar, as you guys know, like I've been really working hard, honestly, on this whole thing, this whole concept of like the moments in my day, the days of the week. And part of that has been the weekends too. The other thing that I've started doing is when I go to Costco on Sunday, and no matter what, I go over and I fill up my gas tank, because nothing will make you happier than getting into your car on Monday with a full tank of gas, like literally and figuratively. Like it's just, and I actually, Mondays are mostly a stay, like I work from home most Mondays. I don't have a ton of appointments usually on Monday morning or Mondays at all. It's just kind of an office day for me, but still, like, for whatever that first, maybe it's driving my kids to practice on Monday evening or whatever, to get in my car and be like, I have a full tank of gas and it's Monday. It's like setting you up for like success for the whole week.
That's it. And this one too, this is a cheesy bumper sticker that I remember, but I say it almost every Sunday, is don't Monday my Sunday. Right? Like don't ruin my Sunday with thoughts of Monday, right? Be in the present. And that's where I really intentionally on the weekends just really get in the moment. Like I don't let Monday's thoughts creep into Sunday. I don't let thinking about what I got to do next week and all of this, all the work that I've got to do. I just say, nope, that's for Monday. That will all be there on Monday. Right now, I've got to rest. I got to recharge. I need to be present with my family. My kids are growing so fast. They grow up so quickly. I just want to cherish this moment. Last night, my wife and I are in the kitchen and we were complaining that we had to, my son doesn't like these one noodles that are chickpea noodles. They're really good for you.
Banzo
Yes. Yeah. So Jenny and I are just kind of like, so like if we're going to do noodles, Jenny and I will do those, but Ashton can't stand them. So we're like, I'm going to make 2 batches of noodles. And so I got, all the stove is just full of stuff. And we were just kind of like overwhelmed as we were cooking because we were trying to please everybody. And Jenny looked at me, she goes, there's going to be a day where it's just you and I cooking and we're going to miss this. And I'm like, yep, you're so right. And just keep being in that moment. Right. And because it just goes by so quick.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, so if you're listening and you are thinking that would stress you out, because I'm a planner and we also are in a super busy season with kids sports. Like some days my daughter has to be, she gets home from school at like 3:30 and we have to have her to practice by 4:30. So like, the weeknights are stressful, and feeding our kids is stressful because they are also like, all of a sudden my daughter doesn't want to eat meat and all my son wants to eat is meat. And so we're like in that same like, how do I feel good as a parent? And so for me, I actually would say that a Sunday was super successful if I went to Costco, filled up my gas tank, and then my husband and I had set aside some time to powwow about the week, planning the week, what we're going to eat, quick meals we can make, and like everything is super well planned out. So again, there's not like not thinking about Monday at all or planning your whole week ahead. Neither one of those is necessarily wrong, but it's just that you have to like really pay attention to the time that you're spending. And at the end of Sunday, if you're feeling like crap because you spent like, then you need to do like an audit of your time. Cause like for me, if it's Sunday night at 8:00 and we're like, okay, everybody, it's time for bed. Like everybody needs to shower or whatever. And then I am like, oh my gosh, we didn't go to Costco. What are we going to, like then like I end the weekend in a really bad spot. You have to figure out what's right for you. But I think the point of all of this is to just really start spending time watching your emotions and seeing how you're responding and reacting to the way that you are spending your time. And like I said, at the end of like this weekend, go through the weekend. At the end, kind of do some reflection. And if you're feeling like not prepared for the week and that doesn't feel good to you, then maybe you need to put a little bit more planning in, and vice versa. If like you feel like, oh my gosh, because I know this has happened to me too, where I'm like, tomorrow's Monday and I don't feel like I had a moment of relaxation or restoration or self-care or anything. So it's figuring out that balance for you and what is right for you and your family and the season. Like at some point, I'm not going to be in this season with my kids, like to Jenny's point, and I'm going to be like missing it. That's what everyone says, which is hard to believe, but I know it's true. And then, it'll probably be like, I will go to Costco on Friday or Wednesday or whatever. And it won't be, you know what I mean? Like it'll change. So some of it just has to do with your season, the season that you're in.
Yep.
And
that's why just embrace it. Yeah.
And yes, embrace it, be in it, and pay attention to how you're feeling. But speaking of the seasons, we're coming into the holiday season.
Yes.
And so how do you take kind of these lessons and these, like if you're working on your calendar and you know how you're spending your time, you take these goals and you continue to be successful through the holiday season and thrive through it versus like surviving through it?
Yeah, it's taking this same, we're talking the weekly intention here. We're talking about, you're getting your tasks done during the week so that you can enjoy the weekend. It's the same thing with the holidays, right? Do not check out. Thanksgiving is one day, right? And then maybe take the long weekend, right? It's not the entire week. Don't check out the entire week, right? Do your work, check, be intentional, get it done, and then check out and be present with your family.
Yeah. And the last couple of weeks, we've talked a lot about some of the hard lessons that I've learned over the last year. And one of those was, realizing that I am an overfunctioner. And that is something that I have to know, and I have to recognize and be aware of. Like it's almost, I think that you could almost equate it, maybe not, but sort of to like any sort of addiction. Like I'm addicted to saying yes when I shouldn't. I'm addicted to doing it all for either people pleasing or because I can. I'm like a very high functioning human, so I can do it all. And so I told my husband actually just this morning that I'm actually super excited for the holiday season this year. Last year was awful. My husband and I were going through the worst time of our lives together. We were building our house. We were we were in a really small apartment with ourselves and my dad, and through the seasons. And it was a lot. And now this year I'm so excited. And what I'm not doing is I'm not going to ruin the holiday season by saying yes when I don't want to say yes. And so that is my hope for all of you, is that if you are somebody like me who wants to see everyone and wants to say yes to everyone, that you take some time. So I'm, right now we're recording this. It's Thanksgiving is a couple weeks out, or like 10 days out. I don't know, whatever it is. And I am like, my husband's probably super irritated with me, but bless his soul, he's just listening to me rant about or not rant, but go on about who do we want to see? What is our time commitment? And then what are the priorities? Like our priority is to go as a family and cut down a real tree. And we have super high ceilings now in our new house. So we want a specific height tree. And so we have to travel farther. That's a priority. So I'm not going to say yes, and I'm not going to overbook our calendar and then have to rush through this exciting time. I tried to get my daughter, our family all on board to buy this beautiful Costco tree. It's like a 12-footer. It's super beautiful. It's got the lights like plugged in or whatever. So I tried to talk Mackenzie into this, and I said, how do you feel about getting this beautiful fake tree this year? Because it'll like, we don't have to worry about it drying out with the fireplace and all this stuff. And she said to me, well, how do you feel, Mom, about having a fake Christmas? I'm like,
she poured it on.
Okay, then. So we're going to drive an hour the day after Thanksgiving to cut down. Yes. And we're like, we don't even know how we're going to get this tree home. Like we're talking about like, who can we borrow a truck and a trailer from so that we can haul this? I'm like, it'd be so much easier to order a 12-footer from Costco that comes in a box. But whatever, we won't have a fake Christmas, I guess. And so anyway, so this is the priority for our family, which means we may have to say no to some other things that we get invited to next weekend. And we as a family, as like my husband and I as a unit, are committed to that. I am committed to that because he would say no to everybody and stay home in his pajamas for 4 days if he could. But I'm like a yes person, and I'm an overfunctioner, and I know that about myself now. And so I am going to thrive through the holidays by making sure that the family commitments that are a priority remain a priority this year.
That's awesome.
And that makes me super excited for the holidays, where normally I would feel super stressed because every minute we're like literally seeing 3 families in one day, to please everybody. And we're not doing that anymore. And so saying no is going to be your best bet.
Yes, that's it. I, and moving to Florida and, leaving RVing a few years ago, like that's when my mind opened up to this of how busy we used to be and all of the commitments, all of the holiday parties. I mean, I went to probably 5 to 10 different holiday parties, and then those were for business. And then I did all the other parties with friends. And then my family, there was 4 or 5 other parties, in those seasons. And I just look at all the running we used to do and just all of it. And then to be in Florida where we have no family, we have very few friends. We always have to be reminded that it's Thanksgiving, because nothing really changes in our schedule. And so seeing, I've opened my eyes to a different way of life, and it's quite fascinating. So, you lean into that. I'm not saying like leave town and not ever talk to your family. That's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying I saw another side. And there's also definitely some cons to that too. It does get very lonely, and there is definitely cons to it. It feels weird. So we talk on the phone and FaceTime and do all of that, but there is a disconnect, and it does feel weird. So I'm not saying like that's the way of life to go have, but just know that there is boundaries that you can set. The other thing I want to add to this conversation is just the idea of your goal planning. I think so many of us stick to annual goals, and you guys all know that we're big believers in the 12-week year and doing 12-week goals. And most of us this time of year are planning for next year. And I think, what about planning for the next 12 weeks? Yeah. Instead of pushing everything off till next year, what if you just say, hey, I'm going to do a 12-week goals during the holidays. It's going to be attainable, but I'm going to focus over these next 12 weeks when I go through the holidays.
Yeah. And actually, I sort of just had a light bulb go off that maybe, even though I'm actually in the middle kind of a 12-week year right now, but maybe I just kind of shift that a little bit and just kind of start a new one on like the Monday of Thanksgiving or the Monday after Thanksgiving, just to make sure, because my goals are going to change a little bit too. I want to be more present with family, and I want to really enjoy this holiday season this year. This last year, as now you all know, was really, really hard on me. And so I really want to, I've got some new exciting things happening in my life and business and relationships, all these things. And so I really want to enjoy it, but I don't want to lose sight of my goals. And and one of those things that I think of is one of the things that stresses me out about thinking about overbooking my calendar for the holidays is all the food and drink. Like I have been making so many strives towards health. I have chronic kidney disease that I'm trying to overcome without medication. So I have I'm trying to strength train. I'm doing all of these things. So then thinking about going into a super, super overbooked holiday season means a lot of food and a lot of alcohol that just doesn't fit into who I'm currently becoming and working towards. And so that's another thing, if I were going to reset my 12-week year, it may be one of my top 3 goals for the next 12 weeks is just going to be to stick with my eating habits, 6 days of the week, or, something around that, where right now it's not as prevalent because there's not a huge risk that I'm going to fall off the wagon with those things. Right. And it's not a bad idea, Neil, to maybe just wherever you are in your, and not to say you don't have to completely change your goals, but maybe just shift them a little bit. Maybe one of those goals changes into a little bit focused on your, health and wellness, if that's important to you, or saying no, holding up boundaries that you usually struggle with. I kind of love that suggestion that we could,
And that's the beautiful thing about the 12-week year. I mean, it's you can start it at any time. So like if you're, I talk about when the wheels fall off, you can start it over. But also sometimes if you just, maybe you got your goals accomplished, or you got a whole new vision and you're like, wait, these goals don't align with that vision anymore. I need to shift. That's the beautiful thing about a 12-week year. Start on Monday, right? The new week starts.
And sometimes what I realize is that I'll write these goals and it'll be a week or 2 in, and I'm like looking back at my goals. The planner I use says in it, right, specifically in it, it says, what did you do today to work towards your goals? And when you're asking yourself that every question, you really get to know in the first week or 2 whether or not you have goals that are set up correctly. Because if it's like, well, there's really nothing I can do today, well, then you need to get a little bit more specific with the goal that you wrote down. So, a lot of times that happens, like where all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, these goals, or like one of these goals just doesn't work right now. And then, you just adjust it and keep going.
That's it. And we could start talking about goals. Good golly, there's so much to talk about around goals. We'll do another episode on that coming up.
And then another thing that I'm excited to talk about is the addiction that we all have to social media. I'm really excited about that topic. It's something that I'm struggling with personally and within my family. And I also am excited to hear, Neil, how you handle social media on the weekends, because you have a different structure for your weekend than I do. And I think that I don't want to say too much, but I will say that I do really believe that the biggest creative killer is consumption of social media. Definitely. And that's something that I have really been working on, and I will not say that I am accomplished yet, but we're going to work on it together.
Hello, my name is Mindi, and I'm addicted to
social media.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially going into, if you want to find some more time in your calendar. So take a look at that screen time, and maybe we'll work in some goal setting around what that screen time looks like.
That's it.
So stay tuned. That's coming up soon.
That's good. And we got a lot to say around that, because I think a lot of agents struggle with that. And I know I did for a long time, and I've finally gotten in a really healthy spot with it. And we got much, much more coming your way. Thank you so much for listening to the Agent Rise podcast. And like always, remember to be the reason somebody smiles today.